went on one run for 140 yards. And I was trying to work out, so he said that, 10 million, 20 million, whatever it was. He said that, and he's got holes in his cords, he's got holes in the elbows of his shirt. You wouldn't know whether he was worth 10 cents or whatever he was worth. So it is an addiction, of course. It's in your DNA. I think I copped it from Snow and Sid and Dad. I think, and don't forget before that, John Morgan, before Pop found gold down in Second Valley, down on the Fluoro Peninsula, 2.5 ounces to the tonne. Go right back to George Bartram in 1851, went over to the Bendigo fields and found a whole heap of gold, came back and bought 3 farms. So it's there, something in it. So I'm guilty as charged, Your Honour. Hang on, I'll have to come down and can't hear you from there. So the question is, talk about the geology of opal fields. Why is opal there and not here? When we get with Mike Crow later on, if anybody can sit next to Mike will tell you. Mike knows more about this than any other. Mike is the guru. He's the go-to man. And Mike took me up in the early days to show me opal up in the Barossa Valley. There's opal there. There's opal along the creeks in the Barossa. There's opal up in Lake Torrens, the old opalised wood up there. There's opal right the way up to the Northern Territory border, right in there. It just has to have the right conditions with the right amount of water, the right, I think opal can form in lots of places. Mike will let you know about places where we never believed opal could be, out on some of the iron ore fields, and where they found, I don't know if it was sapphires, but other precious stones, there's opal mixed up with it. So it's a big subject, but it's it kind of follows the edge of some of the certain clays and sandstones, and it seems to be there. It's all at certain levels. The water, everybody will tell you opal takes 5 million years to form, but there's opal in some of the fence posts up at White Cliffs and so forth. So it probably takes a few years, and there's opal inside of some of the old mining bottles that I've seen from the late 1800s. So that doesn't answer your question, but it's the best I can do just briefly. Any more? Say that. How do I know, or how does anybody know? Sometimes the opal is in the slides in the ground. You're looking for things that have opened up spaces in the ground where the silicate water can get in and form into the opal. So it can be related to slides. Just there's certain types of soils at certain levels where the opal could form more easily than other areas. And then there's people, if you have a background like mine, which is frequency background, there are 2 types of opal, precious opal, each which have a particular frequency. And if you're very sensitive, you can walk the ground and almost feel the opal underneath. So I think that's what Snow had, Harold Becky, and probably it's in the family in general, even though some of us have got a little bit more than somebody else. Now, 2 more questions? All right. Yes. Some of us have. I haven't, but some of the guys here have. We were talking about shells there. Yes, we found what they call skin shells, the outer shell of the opal, the outer surface of the shell has opalised, and you can get fabulous bright colours. Very rarely, I was looking at some stuff with Ben McHenry the other day, and he showed me some full colour shells with the whole shell of a bivalve, solid opal. Fabulous, and usually the most beautiful colour, the most fabulous colour. So yes, and there's some muscle shells. I took the ones I gave to Ben weren't opalised, or some of them were, but they were mud shell fossils, 110 million years old, and so you find shells, but people have found fish, turtles, and all kinds of fossils up there, plesiosaurs, of course, ichthyosaurs, and various other things. So the belemnites, you know, the squid tubes, fabulous colour, a lot of them. So yes, they're all over them. They're there, you know. Okay. Oh, Elizabeth. Okay, the relationship between the miners and the local Aboriginal people. If you look, there's a fabulous thesis on this, and it's in the book. It's mentioned in there. In the early days, there were probably twice as many Aboriginals mining than there were white fellas. When you look at the numbers out on the 8 Mile, there were double the numbers of Aboriginals out there. I reckon it's a big subject, but I think there was still a lot of tribes that used to go walkabout in the early 1900s. And I've seen photographs of Bird and the Grunt family and his dad and stuff with the Grunts on their farm over at Kimber. And I think people were a lot more comfortable in those days with Aboriginal tribes. They just came through, they got to know them all, you know, and so on. And so when Bird went to the fields, and I'm sure the other boys, of course, living in Kimber, knew the Aborigines. So when Bird went there, he was completely comfortable discussing things, talking, and also buying opals from them. And at one stage, when you get into the book, you'll read about Snow, when he's there, and the Aboriginals, because they trusted us, they brought their opals to us, certainly out on the 8 Mile, and we bought almost everything they had. So even though we claim to have had all this opal in the opal, you know, Absalom say 27 cases of this and that, a lot of opal also came from the Aboriginals. They come in on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they bring in enough to get some money, and then they might go shopping or something else after that. So there was a wonderful, I shouldn't call him a chief in the Aboriginal tribes, but head of a tribe called King Billy John. And he was down on the 8 Mile originally, and he had a little red van, and he used to drive all this tribe around. And then they moved up to in the 50s, up to the jeweller shop area of Cooper Pedy. And there were about 200 Aboriginals there, because that's where the water was. And he looked after all of them. He was the head. A lot of these guys have been kicked out of their tribes for misdemeanors and stuff, and so on. And when Snow got sick in 46, it was King Billy John who went and got some herbs for him, just quietly off the cuff, just came up to see the family and gave us the dried herbs, which he said drink like tea. So we boiled them up, and Snow drank them. He had peritonitis. He looked like he was going to die. Certainly he wouldn't have handled 4 days back on a truck back to Anamuka, back to Port Augusta. So anyway, it turned out that Snow, it saved Snow's life. They got him in the end on a plane. So the Bartrams have a very, very good relationship with the Aborigines. And even to this day, I still see Uncle Boogie, and we're on good terms, and I've helped out with the down at with the Trevorrows down at the Coorong. I've known them back in the days before, I think it was George that died, was it? And then, of course, there are a number of old elders, women that I treated in the clinic, and at one stage, and that's so the relationship from the family was good, very good, in fact, honourable.
I also got pictures of my grandfather.
Yep.
Sitting on the high cliffs Their eyes are so for alcohol. They drill a lot of their eyes for example. They would go out in the rain and they could see inspect pieces of old life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they could always go in a handkerchief, which was very English. You know, in a handkerchief they come in and they open the handkerchief up, rather than sit with his hat on and his vest and his jacket and everything. He buys the whole lot. Yeah, with pound notes and £5 and $10. It was a lovely, acceptable package.
There was a guy, thanks for that. There was a guy called Wally Kennemore over in Whitecliffs, and he had an Aboriginal wife called Josie, and he said that she was probably worth $1,000 a week to him because she just walked around, and everywhere they walked, the Aboriginals' eyes are so good they just she'd be picking up opal the whole time, sticking it in her pocket, and so we were just bringing it back. She'd go for a stroll, and she'd come back with a pocket full again. So the Aborigines are very good at that. They don't. I didn't see too many underground ever. They never seem to go underground, but they certainly found. And I think when you read the paper that I had, there's only 50 claims at Coopabidi between 1946 and 1950, and the numbers on there were probably 200 Aboriginals, maybe 50 whitefellas. So the Aborigines were a big part of opal mining, and we should never overlook that. Anyway, that probably do us for questions. So I've just got one last little thing. Seeing it's St. Patrick's Day, I'd like to read my favourite Irish lesson. And it goes like this. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rain fall soft upon your fields. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you very much.
Did you turn it off? If you're okay with it, I'll be brief. Many thanks, Don, for your insightful story. On the creation of your historical record of the Bartrams on the open fields. Yes, I am. Anyway, I'll speak loudly. So, yeah, many thanks, Don. It's a significant historical record of the Bartrams on the open fields and your extensive efforts over such a